This is the story of Leonard Carter, a 62-year-old U.S. Army veteran who survived 2 tours overseas, but almost lost his life inside his own home. On a quiet Saturday morning, in a peaceful neighborhood he had lived in for 20 years, Leonard experienced something no American should ever face: a full-force police raid on the wrong house. A raid that left him traumatized, his home destroyed, and his dignity crushed. Tonight, we break down what led to the raid, the shocking mistakes, and the fight for justice that followed. Leonard Carter wakes up early. He makes his coffee and goes through his normal routine. He's a quiet man, a retired mechanic, a church volunteer, a mentor to young veterans. At 8:42 a.m., he sits at his kitchen table sorting through mail. The morning is peaceful, ordinary, and familiar. Then, black SUVs begin turning onto his street. One, then another, then a third. Several officers step out and move quickly around Leonard's home. They move with purpose. They move like they've done this many times. But behind their confidence is a critical mistake. They have the wrong address. The suspect they are searching for, a 28-year-old gang member, lives at 14B Lawson Street. Leonard lives at 14 Lawson Drive, 2 different streets, nearly a kilometer apart. Yet the warrant in the officer's hands shows Leonard's home. One letter in the street name was wrong, and that one letter will nearly cost a veteran his life. At 8:47 a.m., without knocking, without announcing themselves, officers strike Leonard's door with a battering ram. The front door crashes inward. Leonard stands up in shock as armed officers rush in, shouting commands. He raises his hands and tries to speak. He says, "I'm a veteran. You've got the wrong." Before he can finish, an officer shouts at him to shut up. They tear past him, turning over furniture, ripping open closets, dumping drawers, and scattering his belongings everywhere. Leonard tries again. "My name is Leonard Carter. I live here." He is cut off once more. Then, one officer says a sentence that will later become central to the lawsuit. "You people always have an excuse." The officers continue their frantic search. After several minutes, they begin to slow down. Confusion fills the house. One officer checks his radio. Another looks at paperwork. They whisper among themselves, comparing spellings of the address. Something isn't right. Finally, the supervising sergeant walks back to Leonard and says, quietly, "Sir, we may have entered the wrong house." Leonard is shaking. His hands tremble uncontrollably. His heart is racing. He sits down to steady himself. He asks if they are sure. The sergeant doesn't answer. Instead, the officers simply walk out. They do not apologize. They do not help him up. They do not repair the door or document the damage. They leave the broken door wide open behind them. When Leonard calls the police department to report what happened, he is told it was a routine operation. They claim no misconduct occurred. They insist there is no damage. They say there is no body cam footage. But this is not true. Leonard's attorney requests a copy of the warrant. When the document arrives, it clearly shows a wrong address typed on the form. The supervisor approved it anyway. When deeper inquiries are made, the department becomes quiet. The city refuses to comment. It becomes clear that they are hoping the entire situation will fade away. But it doesn't. Members of Leonard's church hear about what happened. Neighbors arrive to help. Veterans groups step forward. Community organizers rally behind Leonard. People ask how a man who served his country could be treated this way, in his own home, for no reason. The video clip of the officer saying, "You people always have an excuse," begins to circulate, sparking outrage. A city council member calls for a public meeting to address the incident. At the meeting, Leonard's attorney presents the security footage from inside the house. The room falls silent as the racist remark is heard clearly. Then the anger erupts. Leonard decides to file a lawsuit. He sues the department for unlawful entry, property damage, racial discrimination, emotional trauma, and violation of his constitutional rights. The city argues that Leonard did not comply fast enough. They claim the officers acted according to training. They describe the damage as minimal. But Leonard's lawyer uncovers damaging radio transcripts. The transcripts reveal that moments before the raid, the officers discussed the spelling difference between Lawson Drive and Lawson Street. They had noticed a discrepancy. They questioned it, and they proceeded anyway. When these transcripts are presented in court, everything changes. The judge expresses visible frustration with the department's actions. The city realizes they're about to lose, and lose badly. After months of pressure, the city quietly agrees to a settlement. Leonard receives compensation for his damaged property. His medical care is covered. The officer who made the racist remark is suspended. The police department adopts a new protocol, requiring multiple verification steps before executing a warrant. Leonard won his case, but he never wanted money. He wanted respect. He wanted accountability. He wanted to feel safe in his own home again. His courage and persistence forced the city to confront its failures. Failures that could have taken his life. Leonard went to war for his country, and years later, he nearly lost his life because of a single-letter mistake and a team of officers who refused to slow down and verify their target. His story is a reminder of just how fragile justice can be, and how important it is for ordinary people to stand up and demand answers. If you want more stories like this, true, unfiltered, and real, make sure to subscribe. We tell the stories they don't want you to hear.